Hi there, my name is Erlan Ishkimpirov. I am a fifth-year student at International Atatürk Alato University in the International Relations Department. Today, I'm going to talk about the concept of Europe and Ottoman Empire, about its origins and after. The concept of Europe was formulated in 1815 as a mechanism to enforce the decisions of the Congress of Vienna. Composed of the Quadruple Alliance, Russia, Prussia, Austria, and Great Britain. Its main priorities were to establish a balance of power, thereby preserving the territorial status quo and to protect legitimate governments. The six states returned to power after the Congress of Vienna. As you can see, they are Prussia, Austria, France, Russia, Germany, Italy. Headed by Prince Metternich of Austria, the concept of Europe was one of the first serious attempts in modern times to establish an international society to maintain the peace. This made it a significant event in world history, even though it only lasted for a few decades. Here you can see the picture of Prince Metternich of Austria. Internal uprisings. The concept of Europe was successful in suppressing uprisings for constitutional governments in both Spain and Italy in the respective years of 1820 and 1822. Crushing liberal forces in these two countries proved to be positive as they enhanced the concert's integrity by providing the world that it had the muscle to uphold its resolutions. Britain checks out. The first major roadblock for the concept was their decision to intervene in Latin American revolutions and Britain's subsequent refusal to do so. Britain reasoned that it would lose trade profit from the Spanish if the rebellions were ended, and thus from nationalistic interest refused to cooperate. Fortuitously, the problem was solved by the United States' issue of Monroe Doctrine in 1820. Which prevented any European nation from gaining control of Latin America. Eastern question. Russia began to exercise her military strength during the Russo-Turkish War of 1828 and in 1831 when Russia defended the Ottomans from Egyptian attack. The Ottoman Empire bountifully rewarded Russia with the Treaty of Uniker-Skelessi in 1833, which gave Russia an advantageous access to the straits between Bosphorus and Dardanelles. The concept was angered that Russia was permitted to use this area and in an effort to peaceably solve the problem and curtail Russian expansionism held the Straits Convention of 1841. The resolution of this meeting was that no foreign warship were to enter the straits. Impact of nationalism. In the 1840s, nationalism began to assert a strong hold among many European countries, and the concept was unable to stop the unification of Germany and Italy. As these two countries had shown, Europeans were filled with a new spirit of real politics that was strongly nationalistic and not afraid to use force to accomplish their goals. The Crimean War, the death of the concept of Europe. The outbreak of the Crimean War in 1853 signified the downfall of the concept of Europe because it was the first major armed conflict in Europe after the settlement at the Congress of Vienna. This expansionist thrust at the Ottoman Empire by Russia was contrary to the very purpose of the concept, and ultimately it upset the balance of power which had been preserved from the Congress of Vienna until the Treaty of Paris in 1856, the result of the war. This was clearly not the first violence that had erupted since the Congress of Vienna, but the reason it is regarded as the dissolution of the ideals of the concept is the fact that the great powers were fighting against each other for national interests. They had failed to compromise to keep the peace, one of Metternich's major goals for Europe. Additionally, the causes of the Crimean War were contrary to the doctrine of the Concert of Europe, because Russia sought to take advantage of the rapidly decaying Ottoman Empire. Originally devised by Metternich as a solution to the Eastern question, the Concert of Europe was intended to prevent any one nation from gaining control of the Ottoman Empire, thus destroying the balance of power. France, Britain, and Sardinia went to war against Russia in order to preserve the balance of power, but in doing so, they enlarged the conflict between the Russians and the Turks, sacrificing the goal of peace. The terms of the Treaty of Paris were detrimental to the goals of the Concert of Europe because they permanently altered the balance of power. As a form of punishment to the Russians, the treaty banned battleships in the Black Sea and the Straits, which left Russia with an undefended southern border. Because the balance of power no longer offered Russia a more or less equal position, and in fact afforded it a disadvantage, Russia was no longer motivated to uphold what was left of the balance and participate in the Concert of Europe, which was quickly becoming unreal. In conclusion, the Crimean War was the main cause of the disintegration of the Concert of Europe because war broke out between the great powers, as was not the case with the earlier armed suppression of the revolution and the Russo-Turkish War. The original spirit with which the concert had been created was reversed when Russia attempted to exploit the Ottoman Empire. Another goal of the Concert of Europe, to preserve the balance of power, was dissolved by the Treaty of Paris, which was unfavorable to the Russians, leaving them with no incentive to continue to cooperate. Thank you for your attention, and please comment below.